What is going on, everyone? It is your shaman, your sister in spirit, and your friend, Alicia Dunleavy here. And today we are going to be talking about the development of the intuition, the recognition of the intuition, the awareness of the intuition. And it's a really fun topic for me because intuition development is one of the learning circles that I offer to a lot of yoga studios and wellness studios around the area. I've been working on it in PA. I work with it on people online in Zoom, and we have a very interesting approach to it, especially because for some people, we know that we are highly intuitive or highly empathic. We know that we have experiences that cannot be explained, and yet sometimes in the society and the social structures that we are in, it can make it a little difficult for us to really own and step into our gifts. So when we think about what the intuition is, by definition, the intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. Okay, so it's a thing that one knows or considers likely from instinctive feeling rather than conscious reasoning, which means I just know something without having to think about it, right? Like I don't have to know all of the details. I know this. And this is one of the most common, other than empathy, right? This is one of the most common forms of intuition, which is called claircognizance, also known as that gut feeling. So while many people walk this planet and are like, no, I don't believe in that woo-woo stuff. I don't believe in being able to predict and to know everything. There are, without a doubt, moments in our lives where we genuinely experience these moments of, again, understanding something without needing conscious reasoning for them. Now, what is the difference between somebody that has it sporadically and somebody that makes an entire career out of that? That is the development part, right? And how do we develop our intuition? The first thing is, again, really getting to know what kind of intuition you operate on, right? The one that I had mentioned just now is claircognizance. It's that clear knowing. Another one that's very common is clairempathy, right? Which is that clear feeling that is directly associated with energy and feelings. A lot of people here can like walk into a space and just feel the vibes. Right? Good vibes only. Like some of us know exactly what we're talking about. Good vibes as opposed to bad vibes. That is a deep connection to clear feeling or clear empathy. Now, there is also another version of clear feeling, which is called clairsentience, and that is actually physical feeling. That's when you're able to feel people's pain. This happens a lot with men when their partners are pregnant. They have that empathy pain, right? And which is fun because empathy in terms of the psychic world has a lot more to do again with energy and feelings, where clairsentience is where you can feel her headaches and her backaches and her cravings, right? Cravings might be a little bit of both of clairempathy and clairsentience mixed together. What are some other things? One of the most popular ones, and I think the ones that most people associate with intuition, probably has a lot to do with mediumship or clairvoyance, right? That's when we have the third eyes open, we can see the auras, we can see those that have passed away, we have visuals. And that, of course, is not necessarily something that everyone wants to experience. Why? First of all, there is a certain level of fear that can happen whenever we start seeing things that are outside of the tribal acceptance, right? We even think about our parents, like as we're kids, as your kids are playing with things that you're not able to see, but they are tuned into, tapped into, and can see. How do sometimes parents respond? No, that's not real. And so we begin convincing ourselves that it is not real. We allow our conscious reasoning, right, to prevent us from being able to really tap into that ability to just simply know things without needing to think about it or without needing to, reason it or understand it completely. So this is why, or one example of why clairvoyance tends to be a gift that gets shut off and then starts to move down into other areas, which would be clairempath and claircognizance. These things are a little bit more digestible. Right? We don't have to say, "Oh, I saw your dead mother." Right? "Oh, I can see your aura," right? People really rely on the eyes to see, but feelings are not tangible. They're not something that necessarily we can touch. They are an experience to be had. Knowing is also something that's not necessarily tangible. It is an experience to be had. Where the eyes, the nose, and the mouth are all physically there to be used. I don't see it. I don't see it with my eyes. Well, I don't know that. Which, sure, some people might say, how do you know that? I don't know that. There's a little bit more faith. There's a little bit more trust that has to be involved with that, and a release of control. Because we all know, like, you could be thinking something, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I'm thinking. And we've adapted to the fact that that's okay. So again, claircognizance and clairempathy, or you might be feeling that, but I'm not necessarily feeling that way about that, and that's okay. So we have set a certain sort of, you know what, we can make reason of that. We can be okay with these two, as opposed to the others, which can cause a little bit of the word that they are wanting to use is, it's almost like the feeling of being cast out of a tribe, not being believed in. The wound of not being heard, not being seen, not being believed in, and at some capacity, being judged. And being judged ultimately feels like being rejected. And being rejected ultimately feels like being cast out. And being cast out at the very root of the human experience has a lot to do with possibly not surviving, right? Which is very interesting because we do live in these human bodies that understand that at some capacity survival is the game. For our human for our meat suit, right? Survival is the game. For our soul, consciousness, elevation, enlightenment, growth is the game. Not to say that the body doesn't need to grow as well, right? It just does it on its own, which is nice. I'm very grateful that I don't have to tell my body what hormones and neurotransmitters to release on a regular basis, or to tell my heart to beat on a regular basis, right? It just knows how to grow things and how to evolve and how to age naturally. And I really think that the spirit knows how to do that too, as long as we can not have to reason our way through it. And I digress, but I'm sure there's a message in there somewhere for somebody. So, for those of you that rock with me and like watch, like, do you identify with being able to say, sometimes I do just know things, especially when it comes to people, right? I notice that a lot of people have very strong intuition about others. That doesn't mean that it's 100% correct and that judgment isn't there as well, right? But for the most part, one of the greatest activities to do with people is to either look at a picture of somebody or to sit across from somebody maybe that you don't know or maybe that you have met for the first time, and to be like, I'm picking something up. Like, you seem like you are very X, Y, and Z. Like, if I were to read you, I would say, you probably like to party. Like, you like to have a good time. I feel like you have a great sense of humor. Sometimes I feel like you might be a little bit misunderstood. Sometimes I also feel like maybe you feel a little insecure and don't really stand up or speak out for what you say, right? Where that might be a knowing or a feeling, where somebody who's clairvoyant might say, "Ooh, you know what? I noticed something in your chakras. I noticed that your throat chakra seems a little bit smaller than usual. So to me, that would show me, that would indicate that maybe you don't speak up, or maybe you're lying about something in your life." And how does that feel? How does that resonate with you? Do you see how we're getting to the same points, but with different gifts? Yeah. So when we are developing the intuition, what I really encourage for people to do is to know who you are, know how your intuition works, and not try to work in the capacity of somebody else. If your gifts are claircognizance, use it. Use it, develop it. And how do you develop it? You do that just by simply practicing. Practice it. Put yourself in situations where you have to practice it. Join classes, join courses. Um, go to somebody who has a certain level of mastery or experience in it that you can, you know, go through challenges, go through workouts in order to flex your intuitive muscle. Okay. Um, and if you're bold and don't necessarily need somebody to put you in those situations, then to be your own teacher and to put yourself in those situations, right? um I know that there are a lot of people out there that are on dating sites, and like you can just get real into like the swiping thing. However, if you took your time, not saying not to swipe, right, but if you took your time and looked into the person's eyes and was like, I'm trying to get a feel for you, like, what's your situation, you might be surprised at how much easier it would be for you to make a match outside of strictly appearance, right? You also might find it a lot easier to not swipe yes on somebody because you're actually picking up things that might mimic a partner from the past. It's like, "Ooh, I actually know that energy. I know that this person might be like this. This is very familiar to me. They have a very familiar vibe." And I love that by capturing pictures, we can really capture the essence of a person. We can capture the spirit and the energy of a person. And I have seen that time and time again by having pictures and sharing them with my clients to see, what they pick up on them. So again, what are some of the gifts? Some of the gifts, some of the clairs that you might have are clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, clairaudience, which is clear hearing. So maybe you hear voices inside of your head. Ooh, maybe you hear your guides. Maybe you actually can hear spirits speaking in the room. Clair aliens, which is clear smelling. Maybe you'll get a whiff of somebody's perfume or cologne or cigarettes in an interesting space or a space that you wouldn't expect it. Maybe a whiff of grandma's apple pie that you haven't smelled in a long time. Clairgustance is clear tasting, getting an interesting taste of something around. You have clear empathy, which is clear feeling, emotions, and vibrations. Clear sentience, which is clear feeling that might be pain held in the body. Clear tangency is feeling with the hands. I think the other term for it is psychometry or psychometry. And it's when you put your hands on something and you either know where it came from or you can pick up data from the object. A lot of hands-on healers have this thing that they can do when they put their hands on somebody. They can pick up on, ooh, I'm picking up this kind of energy, right? It's there are two minor chakras on the palms of the hands, and whenever we lay them on things, sometimes we can actually pick up memories and things like that from them. Claire uh clear cognizance, which is clear knowing. um I think those are all of the ones that I can think of, the main ones, right? But beyond that, we can do remote viewing, we can do astral traveling, we can do mediumship, we can do telekinesis, we can do telepathy, we can do um channeling is a big one that a lot of people do that they're unaware of. And I actually find beyond the claircognizant and clairempath, channelers, they always really struggle. Those are the ones that always come to me and say, I feel like I have a gift, but I don't know what it is. And then they just keep talking and talking and talking. And I notice I'm talking to other people, and they're just this clear and perfect channel for spirit to talk to, which is so beautiful, right? We have healers, we have people that have the power to heal, we have people that have the discernment of spirits, are able to tell the difference between spirit. And discernment, of course, is something that I highly recommend for anybody that's actually trying to develop their intuition. right? Learning how to discern not only between your own intuition, but learning how to discern, maybe who's talking to you, what their intention is. You can absolutely use your intuition to continue to ask yourself, what is this and why is it here? And is this something that I want to mess with, right? Is this something that I want to participate in? Is this something that's in alignment with my now, with what's right for me in this moment? But anyway, with all of those being listed, I'm very interested in you being able to pick up what form of intuition is probably the most easily accessible to you. And from that point, challenge yourself. Little tips to play, little tips and tricks to do things, right? We are talking about when you misplace your keys, trying to use your intuition to find it. When your kid can't find a toy, trying to use your intuition to find it. You can also do an activity that I really love, and it's where you have two colors. One is typically a warm color, one is typically a cold color. All that means, it doesn't necessarily have to be hot or cold, right? We don't have to necessarily go for the feeling of it, but what I'm talking about is the tones of the color. So you might want to do an orange or a blue, or a yellow or a purple, or a red and a green. Okay. And what you'll want to do is you'll have those two tones there. The reason why I say the two separate tones is because when you're starting out, it might be easier for you to use your intuition to find out which one is which. If you have a blue and a yellow right next to each other and you're just starting out, those two cool colors are very close together and it might be a little bit hard to discern which one is which. If you practice and gain a lot of confidence with the hot and cold colors, then really what you're going to be building is your confidence. And a lot of people don't have a very strong intuition because they haven't practiced building that level of confidence and self-trust within to do this. They get caught in their heads. They want it to be perfect. They're nervous that if they do end up being right, what might happen? It's interesting how fear can manifest in a lot of different for a lot of different reasons, right? Some of you are even afraid genuinely to get it right because what does that mean? Right? Especially that would also depend on your upbringing and the dogma behind having intuition in the first place, or any sort of trauma that you might have had with your intuition in the past. So getting those two colors, um, mixing them up in your hands, and then holding it in front of your face, laying it down in one spot, holding up the other, laying it down in the other spot. Okay, that's a great thing to play. My daughter and I play that game, and it's just so silly and so fun. The last thing that I want to bring up, right? The last mastery tip, is recognizing that when we are in a beta wavelength, when we are in a stress or thinking, right? When we learned the definition, the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. That means thinking. Okay. So when we are in beta, we are actively thinking, we are processing, we are figuring things out. This is not typically the space that the intuition will rise, right? There's a difference between I'm going to think about this and I'm going to come to a conclusion, or being like, I know this. I don't know how I know it. I don't care. I don't care what anybody else says. I know what this is. Those are two completely different feelings or circumstances or experiences that we have. So, what we want to do is when we are dropped into the intuition, if you are in conscious reasoning, if you are in thinking, you're going to be in the beta wavelength. What we want to do is we want to drop down at least into the alpha wavelength. Why the alpha? The alpha wavelength is when we are able to go into imagination, when we are daydreaming, when we are having fun. Okay. When we are in alpha, what we are doing is stepping back from that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response that the body naturally will trigger into action. Okay. We are allowing the body to relax. We are in relaxation and a light form of meditation whenever we are in alpha. And so, whenever you're doing these games, be mindful of the difference when you are actively trying to figure it out, right? And just allowing your intuition to guide you, just having fun, just kind of in a state of play. The last example that I want to bring up is like you'll notice that children are very connected to things. Why? It's because they are constantly in their mind in an alpha state. They have no stress. They don't have to worry about bills and friends and relationships, right? They are simply free being who they are and allowing their imagination to really just allow them to be present with existence. And when we are allowing ourselves to do that as well, then that's where we find that we are most connected to our intuition. Okay. So I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that it was insightful. I hope that you were able to pick up on some of those gifts that maybe you didn't have. So claim it. Now's the part where you know what kind of intuition you have, claim it, practice it. And for those of you that are really looking to dive deeper into development, reach out to me. I do have coaching programs for you, one-on-ones, where we can really begin to practice and play so that way you can gain the confidence that you need and and the support and the guidance that you might be really looking for at this time. So thanks everybody for joining with me. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll talk soon. Bye.